Hey there, friend. Welcome back to this beginner series. I'm Jen Hilman, and I'll be your guide in today's practice as we explore an age-old classic vinyasa favorite, downward facing dog. So if you go to any traditional flow or power or vinyasa yoga class in any studio anywhere, you are likely going to encounter this pose. However, there's a lot of attention to detail that's necessary to execute this pose safely for your body. So go ahead and like this video, leave your questions below, and subscribe to the channel. And go ahead and roll out your mat, and we are going to begin with a gentle warm-up to prepare your body, and we are going to explore the real fundamentals, the foundational basics for this crowd favorite, downward facing dog. So we want to begin with a little bit of a warm-up for your body because downward dog is a big pose. Let's bring the hands together in front of you, just interlacing your fingers there. And let's start with a few figure 8 circles, just rotating your wrists around, and you can pick your own pace, moving as fast or as slow as you like, just rotating those wrists around. And then we're gonna reverse directions, which feels a little wonky at first. It feels a little awkward, but that's part of the fun. It's the brain teaser, getting your mind moving in ways it's not used to. All right, let's let that go and just shake out your hands a little bit. Then extend one hand out in front of you with your palm facing up. We're going to flex your hand open and reach around with your free hand. Grabbing a hold of your fingertips, begin to gently pull back. Now, I do encourage you to extend your elbow straight, as that will help to move the stretch all across the forearm as well as the palm of your hand. So this is a really great stretch for opening up the wrists, opening up tight hands, opening up your forearm and even into your elbow. And then we're going to bend that elbow, flip your palm down, then again, use your free hand to just gently press down on the top of your hand, giving you an easy stretch across the top of your wrist. Then we'll go ahead and shake out that hand and do the other side. Extending that hand with the palm facing up, flex your fingers down as you pull back with your free hand. Feeling the palms open wide, feeling the forearms stretch as you extend through your elbow. Really feeling that stretch. Should feel really nice here. Don't stretch too hard. Let it feel good for your body. Okay, and then we'll release that. Flip your palm down as you bend into that elbow. And we'll take the free hand and gently press down on your wrist, giving you that nice easy stretch across the top of the wrist there, across the top of your hand. Breathing into it. And then shake it out and release. So downward facing dog is a pose that is weight bearing in the hands. And one of the major complaints that I hear from people is that it's hard on the wrists. It's true. We do bear a lot of weight into the wrists in downward dog. But when you build strength and stamina in your hands, wrists, and forearms, it becomes a lot easier for you to be in the pose safely without over compressing the wrists. So we are going to take a look at that a little bit today. Downward facing dog also requires a tremendous amount of opening and flexibility in your chest and shoulders. So let's warm up into that area a little bit now. We're going to come into a tabletop position, just making your way onto your hands and knees. And from here, we're just going to start with some mindful placement of your hands. So for now, let's start by coming up onto your finger pads. So we're going to come right up onto the tips of your fingers, extending through the fingertips and lifting through the inner arch of your hands. So the palm of your hand is hollow and lifted. So already in this position, you're going to start to feel some awakening in the forearms. We're already starting to engage the muscles, and this is a wonderful conditioning exercise to help you build that strength in your hands and forearms. So just from this position, even if your hands get a little tired, see if you can hang in there and stay with it. We're going to move into a little cat and cow just to warm up your spine. Take a nice big deep breath in as you lift your heart forward, reaching your chest through your upper arms as you gently curl your tailbone upward. Then exhale and curl your belly in, gently rounding through your spine. Tuck your chin down to your chest. Keep pressing your fingertips into the earth, lifting up through the palm of your hand. Then again, we'll inhale and open. Lift your heart, lift your tail. Roll your shoulders down your back as you stretch your belly long. Then we'll exhale to gently round your spine, scooping your belly in, tuck your chin, press your spine to the sky. Then again, we'll softly open. Inhale, nice big deep breath. Again, if your hands are getting tired, try and hang in there for one more round as we exhale. Pressing your spine to the sky, squeezing your belly up and in, feeling that stretch into your back. Then go ahead and make your way to neutral and begin to walk your hands out in front of you. So we're coming down off those fingertips, reaching your hands towards the front of your mat. Try to keep your hips aligned over your knees as you softly begin to relax your chest down towards the earth. So this is the feeling. This is the feeling in downward facing dog. This is how much stretch and how much opening needs to occur in your chest and shoulders. So we breathe into the sensation here. Take a mental snapshot of how it feels. Feeling that full extension through your shoulders, into your chest. Feeling that length along the sides of your waist. Feel that gentle curve in your low back as your tailbone arcs upward. So we want to feel that much length, that much space in your spine when you're in your downward facing dog. Now let's just gently lift your gaze, looking forward towards your hands. Spread your fingers wide apart, and I want you to focus on that index finger, pressing down into the index finger especially. And those two pointer fingers, those index fingers need to be pointed directly forward. So we press down through that fingertip. You're going to feel some engagement in the shoulders. We're going to feel some activation up the arms. So keep pressing down through that index finger, awakening that muscular activation. Good work. We're going to gently release and walk your hands back in, pressing yourself up. You can just come into a little kneeling pose, shake out your arms a little bit, right? So we're waking up the chest and shoulders, because as I mentioned, downward facing dog is a big pose and it's a full body pose. So it includes a deep stretch into the backs of the legs. So we want to explore opening the backs of the legs a little bit here too as we continue our warm up. So go ahead and bring your hands forward, coming back into that tabletop. And I want you to just notice your automatic tendency. So when you bring your hands down, just look and see what happened. Are your fingertips close together or wide apart? Are your fingertips rotated out or rotated in or straight directly forward? Just notice what your natural tendency is. Then again, I want you to focus on that index finger on both hands. And again, we're going to press down through the index finger. And notice how that activates your hands, your wrists and your forearms. That's the juice. So keep pressing down through the index finger, and we're going to extend one leg back behind you. Digging your toes into the mat, we're going to gently begin to press your heel back towards the back space. So deeply flexing that back foot, and you'll start to feel a stretch across the calf and the ankle, and see if you can keep pressing down through those index fingers so your arms are getting really strong here too. Stretch, stretch, stretch. 1, 2, 3. Let's gently release back to your tabletop position. Great work. Let's try the other side. Pressing down through the index fingers. We want to really practice this here. It's exhausting at first. It makes you tired, but it's because your muscles just aren't used to moving this way. But this is why we build a strong foundation from the ground up. So we press down through the index finger, building good habits from the get-go. Then dig the other foot back to the back edge of your mat and begin to press that heel towards the back. So again, we're activating strength and energy into the arms, pressing down through that index finger. That's going to help to lift the weight away from the heel of your hand and place more weight into your fingertips. Flexing through that back foot, get a nice good stretch into your calf. Then we'll slowly release back to your tabletop. You can come back down to kneeling and shake out those arms and hands again. If you need a little bit more break, you can come back to that figure 8. Just be sure you practice both directions. Do it the weird way too. And we are going to practice a variation called dolphin pose. So this is essentially going to have all the same lines and angles as our downward facing dog, but it's going to allow us to bring the weight into our forearms and just feel what that feels like before we do the full pose with the hands down on your mat. So from this kneeling position, we're going to go ahead and come forward, bringing your elbows down onto the mat, bringing your palms together. Your elbows should be like a nice equilateral triangle, right? So the elbows are, about forearm length apart. And then you bring the hands together here. You can bring your hands like prayer, or you can interlace the fingertips. Totally up to you, whatever feels good. So now I'm going to press down with the forearms. So really actively press and notice what happens in the shoulders. So I'm neutral, but then I pressing the forearms down, and the shoulders naturally lift and engage. So we're going to feel that power and strength in our downward dog as well, in the shoulders. Now curl your toes under and begin to lift up your hips. It's okay if you keep your knees bent for now, but keep pressing your forearms into the mat and move your chest towards your knees. So again, you can have your knees straight or your knees bent, really. That's going to make it easier. If you let your knees be bent and just lift up your hips, you can come up higher on your toes as you press your chest towards your knees. This is a really wonderful, big, juicy stretch into your chest and shoulders. And this is going to make it a lot easier to get into our downward dog here in just a moment. As you want, you can pedal out your feet, bending one knee and straightening the other, alternating back and forth. This is giving you a little bit deeper stretch into the backs of the legs, opening up behind the knees, starting to open into your hamstrings. And again, building strength and conditioning into the upper body. Good work, my friends. Let's go ahead and lower your knees down. Come on back to kneeling and let's shake out those arms a little bit. You can make some big circles if that feels good. Take some deep breaths. And I just want to mention that dolphin pose is a wonderful variation for downward facing dogs. So if you have any injuries in your wrists, if you're recovering from carpal tunnel or some issues like that, you might enjoy doing that dolphin pose variation while you heal and recover. so that you're not putting excess pressure, stress, weight into those wrists and hands. So it's a really good pose to kind of have in your back pocket if you ever want to modify and do that dolphin pose. But for now, as promised, we are getting to our downward facing dog, the big kahuna. So we are going to come back into our tabletop position. And again, notice what is your natural tendency with your hands. Let's see if we can bring a little more strength and awareness into the hands. Spread your fingertips wide apart, again, with the index finger pointing straight ahead. We're going to press down and engage the hands by rooting down through that index finger, really rooting down. You could even dig in with the other fingertips as well, like digging your fingertips into moist mud. So the fingertips are very active. This awakens the palm of the hand. Then we'll curl your toes under here. Lift your hips. And again, I recommend just keeping the knees soft and bent for now. We want to press your chest towards your knees. Feeling that length, just like we did in our puppy pose with the knees on the floor. Rooting down through your index finger. Engaging the strength of your arms and hands as you feel that openness, that stretch through your chest and shoulders and along the sides of your waist. You want to feel that gentle curve in your low back as your tailbone arcs upward. From here, you can begin gently reaching your heels towards the earth, although your heels may not touch and your knees may not straighten all the way. It's totally okay. I would rather see you have this extended long spine and that full extension through the chest and shoulders, and then work on straightening through the legs. It's totally okay. Just take it one breath at a time, settling into the pose, paying special attention to feeling that awakening through the fingertips, pressing down through that index finger, drawing energy up into your arms, feeling the strength in your shoulders and length in your spine. Just breathe here into that deep stretch into your legs. And slowly release your knees down to the floor. Sink your hips back to your heels and soften down into child's pose. If it feels good, you can roll your wrists around a little bit here. Shake out your hands. Stretch out through your arms and fingertips. Just whatever feels good to your body here. Breathe deeply into your back body as you feel the weight of your hips melting down towards the earth. When you're ready, gently walk your hands in towards your knees and press yourself up to a nice kneeling pose. And slide your hips over to one side and come into a nice comfortable seat. Take a moment to just settle in right where you are and thank yourself for a job well done. Even though downward facing dog is incredibly common, it's pretty complex when you really start to fine tune your awareness within the pose. So be sure you come back and follow along frequently, building your strength and your confidence in your downward facing dog. And stay tuned for the next part of our beginner series where we are going to dive into some heart opening poses. Don't forget to visit my website, jenhilman.com, and check me out on social media at Jen Hilman. Have a blessed day, and we'll see you next time.